We've all seen it in the news. Someone defends themselves or their loved ones only to find themselves fighting a legal battle that can cost everything. Mortgage payments, retirement savings, even their kids' college funds, gone, just to prove they did nothing wrong. That's why Firearms Legal Protection, the official sponsor of Every Citizen Armed, exists. For as little as 33 cents a day, FLP gives you unlimited legal defense for criminal and civil cases. No caps, no hidden fees, no surprise bills. If you have to defend yourself, FLP will handle the legal battle so you can focus on what matters: your family, your future, your freedom. We insure our homes, cars, and health. Why wouldn't we protect ourselves legally when it matters most? Go to firearmslegal.com, choose your plan, and use promo code ECA at checkout for exclusive pricing. No setup fee and a locked-in lifetime rate. Protect yourself today, and Firearms Legal Protection will have your back when it matters most.
Every Citizen Armed ensures that every American patriot is prepped with knowledge, perspective, and firepower.
He counted on America to be passive. He counted wrong.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
All right, we're going to start with the next episode of Every Citizen Armed, and today we're doing things a little bit different. I'm not going to have a guest as much as my son Charles is going to join me today, and we're going to talk a little bit about what we're doing a little bit different with the podcast and where we're kind of taking the direction, and just some overall thoughts of what we're doing. Charles, why don't you go and introduce yourself a little more? It's been a while since you've been on.
Since we got together, and I'm usually on the other side of the camera, running video, audio, and doing all the technical side of things. But, I did, just so people know, I'm the founder of Every Citizen Armed, started this in 2017 as a clothing company. You can see that wearing one of the shirts today, which we don't focus on heavily these days, right. But it's turned into a pretty solid firearms training company where we provide CCW classes to students all throughout the state of California, and now even into other states. Now,
we did have a customer from Tennessee a while back, actually.
Yeah. Now that California has made it legal for other state or other residents of out-of-state residents to apply for CCW, we can offer that to instructors outside of California. So, started this in 2017. My background is, I did 11 years in the California Army National Guard, where we did, I served as an IT specialist, communications sergeant, and then also served 5 years as a deputy sheriff with the Kern County Sheriff's Office. And since then have become an NRA range safety certified, and then now CRPA CCW instructor certified along with you. So that's the background, and then obviously the other businesses that I run full time. But
perfect. And like I said, we do have on our website, there's all kinds of, you get all your CCW training. It's in multiple counties now, not just Kern County, but which other counties? I think we have Tulare County.
So Tulare County, Fresno, I believe Madera, Kern, obviously, Monterey, and maybe Orange County as well. Ultimately, we typically connect with instructors, and the instructors send their students to our online platform. So if you are still spending 8 to 16 hours in person taking these CCW classes, then maybe talk to your instructor and see if your county will allow online, and then we'll get, let us know, and we'll connect with your instructor and kind of help you guys out with that.
Well, and also instructors can call us and they can get put on the website, because right now we have some of the best instructors around. I mean, Tony Mosley stands out, Ronnie Jeffries. You look at Ben Boyle is on there. He's a very good instructor.
Yep.
And we have the fella up in Oakland, I think.
Yeah, Pistol Squad. Yep.
Pistol Squad does a great job.
Yeah.
And we have a couple other instructors on there at this point.
Yeah, a lot of our instructors are former law enforcement, former military. Like you said, Tony Mosley, great friend of mine, as former BPD SWAT, and before that Marine Corps. We've had instructors. He's now he's the head of security on a Disney cruise liner. But we had a Ryan Miller, who is a Navy SEAL, teaching out here through our platform. And so we have, and Ronnie Jeffries, great Army, combat arms, and then BPD, Bakersfield Police Department.
He was SWAT team.
Now retired. So
yeah, very good instructor. And a lot of these guys, you go back on our old episodes, you could listen to them when they came on.
Yeah.
Like I said, I know Ronnie's been on, Tony's been on, and Ryan's been on. So those are great ones to listen to and learn about what they're doing. And then we've also had a couple of folks on here that own gun stores, or the guys that own the 5 Dogs Range. They've all been on. So go back to some of our old episodes and you'll listen and learn a little bit, and you'll kind of see actually how we got better at this as we went too, because we definitely started out a little bit rough. So as this moving forward, like Charles said, we're actually going to be doing a little instructing on our own right. We're just waiting, I believe, right now on the DOJ, if I remember right.
Yeah, we got all of our paperwork back. We need to actually send it off. So
so now it's on us.
Now it's on us.
Okay, never mind. So we'll get that part done. I won't blame it on the DOJ at this point. I'll blame it on my son.
Yeah.
So that's how that works. So anyway, we are doing a little bit different, and you will notice, our regular listeners, we have had some politicians come on. We wanted to mix it up. It's not just, the name of the episode is Every Citizen Armed, but we want you armed not with it's not all about just firearms. Really, when you look at it, we want you armed with information as well. So, and as much information as you can get. Like we've had Steve Hilton on here. That was a great one.
Yeah.
He sat with us for an hour. That was awesome.
Yeah.
And hopefully he'll be our next governor, and we'll do
It looks a little different these days with, now he's got his beard and he's got a little more power dynamic. It looks like he's going for.
I think that's exactly what he's doing. Yeah. Let's see if I can appeal to a different group.
Yeah.
So, but hey, I'll take him over that mess on the other side at this point. So,
well, and there's been a lot of new things. I was kind of excited to come on the podcast and talk about. We just had a major victory this week in the Supreme Court. Actually, 2 victories, one solidified and the other is pending, but was now accepted. So there was a case. I don't know the title or the name of the case, but there was a case out of Hawaii that they have similar restrictions to us here in California, where we have the SB 2 from 2024 that outlines sensitive places that we couldn't carry our firearm, and it also changed a rule that used to be called like a default allow. They changed it to default deny, meaning you couldn't take your CCW, your firearm, with you into private property unless they explicitly allowed you to carry. Oh. So if you went into Walmart and Walmart didn't explicitly have a sign out there saying you're allowed to carry a firearm on these premises, then you'd be breaking the law. And the Supreme Court took that up and overturned it this last week. So major win for concealed carry and also for gun rights in general.
So there's always going to be lawsuits going on. We see that the federal government is now suing the state of California over the Glock ban. I don't know if you've read into that a whole lot.
Oh, so I've seen there's a few. So this is the first time that I'm aware of, and I've looked into this in the past, where the federal government is starting to take on states in order to protect the people's Second Amendment rights. Yeah. So someone, obviously there are a lot of people who aren't fans of Trump, but this is one of the things I think that he's pushed, or he's at least got the right people in the right places, where the federal government's doing their job. And they're suing. I don't know which states, but I know that they're suing on the AR-15 bans as well, multiple states, or actually it might be cities. And then they're also, like you said, they're I didn't know about the Glock, so that's interesting.
Yeah, I believe they actually filed those papers already at this point. And I know Newsom is doing everything he can to keep that rolling.
Sure.
And with them, it's really not about this gun or that gun. They just want to make it as hard as possible for anybody to own a gun. And that really is what the damn, it's like running these extra taxes and things that they do on it. That's what it's not about. They don't look at it as rights or not. They're just looking at it as controlling the power, in my opinion. And when I look at it, what they're really doing is they're making it hard for people to defend themselves.
Yeah, it's hard for me to fully understand. I think that the politician and the people have different motives. So I tend to look at it and say, Gavin Newsom is not representative of the people. He's able to achieve his goal by appealing to the people who are dumb enough to vote for him. So, the people, their way of thinking about it, they're uneducated. These folks, these liberals and gun haters, they're mostly just afraid that they don't have a lot of education or experience with guns. They don't fully understand, the safety mechanisms and how to use them and when they're safe and when they're not. And so they're generally just afraid out of ignorance. And so that leaves open an opportunity for corrupt politicians like Gavin Newsom and other Democrat politicians and anti-gun politicians like him to come in and exploit that fear in order to push forward their own agenda, which is removing these guns from the streets.
I think one of my favorite clips I saw recently was actually somebody who you wouldn't think it from, but Bill Maher. Of all people, it's funny. He's kind of all over the place at times, but he had Ro Khanna on his show the other day.
Yeah.
And there's been one of the things that has changed as the government cannot use habitual marijuana use as a reason to block you from owning firearms.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty big win. Not that I'm necessarily for or against the use of marijuana, but I think that as a general principle, the Second Amendment doesn't include any exceptions to the rule about who can and can't carry arms. And the Supreme Court has ruled that historically you don't want to allow violent felons to possess firearms. Now, though, it's kind of in the conversation that previously, at least in the more recent times, that's led to lifetime bans. So these people who are getting convicted of, like, for example, having marijuana, enough for it to be a felony, were having their rights taken away, their gun rights taken away for the rest of their life. And, ultimately that's it's unethical. It's clearly unethical. It's also unconstitutional. And we know that now, or at least we've known that, but at least now the Supreme Court has made a ruling on that. And we can say definitively that those politicians, whoever voted on that in the past, were, tyrants.
Yeah, I think that's a good way. And folks could go back to listen to when Donnie Youngblood was on, our Kern County Sheriff. Him and I actually had a discussion about that point, about felons, actually people who are convicted of felonies, to be able to come back and apply to own firearms in the future. Because if I remember, he used an example of a buddy of his who was coming up on 75, 80 years old.
Yeah.
When he was 18, 19 years old, he did something stupid, as a lot of us have done.
Sure.
I mean, if I'd have got caught doing some of the things I did when I was 18, 19, 20, I definitely would have been in a lot more trouble. But whatever, he got caught. He got in trouble. He paid the price.
Yeah.
He did whatever his penalty was. But here he is 60 years later, and he still cannot own a firearm.
Yeah.
And that is wrong, in my opinion, because you can make a mistake when you're young.
Yeah.
And then you should absolutely have the right to protect your family and your property and yourself.
Yeah.
In the future, if you're a jackass and you're going back to prison, fine. I don't care.
Right.
I'm not worried about their rights, because they're giving up their rights to be a productive citizen.
If you're in prison, you're in a different situation for sure.
Yeah, and if you're on parole, you're on probation, those things are going to factor. But after a certain amount of time, you should be able to reapply and not make it ridiculously hard. for them to do it. So it's just, if you're a criminal, that you're gonna still be a criminal.
Well,
you're
it's effectively it's a life sentence.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing. So they're leveraging what was a historical precedent, which was not a lifetime ban, but they're leveraging a historical precedent to again push forward their own agenda, which is to remove guns from the streets. And it doesn't matter to them, to the anti-gun politician, whether it's a criminal or it's someone who messed up one time. That means nothing to them. They have an agenda, and that agenda gets them votes. And as long as that gets them votes and keeps them in office, then they will continue to sign on to that agenda. Now there are, I think, I can't remember if he's out of Pennsylvania, but there's a senator, he's got brain damage. I can't remember.
John Fetterman, he's out of Pennsylvania.
Yeah. He seems to be, kind of leaning into a different, maybe more of the gun rights, if I remember correctly, more conservative on some of the things he was interested in.
A lot of things, which is interesting because now the Democrats are going to say it's because he had that stroke that he's got brain damage, and that's why he's become a little more conservative.
Yeah.
But in the long run, I think it's, and he was one when he got elected, I just thought, oh my God, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Because he was still struggling when he got elected.
Yeah.
I don't know if you watched that debate with him at all or not, and he could not, he couldn't function.
Wow.
And to see the recovery on him has been pretty amazing in its own right for him and his family. But you're right. He is actually one who, he represents what's considered a purple state. And he is purple in his thoughts. Yeah. He said, I never would have thought I would be agreeing with Fetterman on many things. Or using him as a good example.
Sure.
But he definitely, the guy walks around in shorts and a sweatshirt in Congress and in Senate, and it's
my
just
style. Yeah,
your style, but not in the Senate. I don't get it. He wore a suit somewhere, I think because of Trump. I think Trump asked him to wear a suit, if I remember right.
Yeah,
which is surprising because he's a big guy. But either way, that's one that he is definitely leaning more towards more conservative side. I wouldn't be surprised to see him jump the ship before too long.
Yeah, well, as these folks push further and further left, into what I call the hive mind mentality, these Democrats, they appeal to weakness. That's what they're looking for, folks who don't feel self-sufficient, who don't feel like they can protect themselves, who feel like they need a nanny government, a big brother, to keep them safe. And these Democrats appeal to those folks, and they're essentially just buying votes because it's easy to take the weaker mind and convince them that whatever it is that you tell them is good for them. And that's the government handouts, hey, we'll keep you safe. But the stats show, and I'm not all for just the stats, but also for the principles, but the stats show like you're just not able to defend yourself against someone long enough for the police to arrive. You have moments, you have seconds, you don't even have minutes when someone has a weapon, a knife, a gun, or multiple people, even if all they are armed with are their fists and their hands. You just don't have, you need a firearm to protect yourself in those situations, even if it's just multiple attackers. And, that's one of my core values and beliefs is that, the only human right, the only real human right is our ability to defend our own life or the life of another. It's the only thing that can't be taken away.
Yeah.
Everything else can be taken away from us. Our freedom of motion, we can be put in prison. We can have everything else taken away. But the thing that can never be taken away from us is our ability to defend ourselves. And I think that is where that seems to be a forgotten principle. People don't seem to, maybe it's because society has become safer. Now, I worked in law enforcement for 5 years, and I don't necessarily think that society is that safe. I just think that most people have their head in the sand, and they're not educated on all of the things that are happening. But we were booking murder suspects, rape suspects daily, child molesters daily in Bakersfield, which is still still fairly small town of about 400,000 people. So, ultimately, I think that the Democrats have had their time, but ever since ever since the assault weapons ban of 1994 was overturned, we've kind of seen a trajectory towards more gun rights being given back to the people, and these tyrants being kind of pushed off to the side, which is exciting.
Well, and I think that was another one that was highlighted in one of our old episodes when Donnie Youngwood was on. He made that point. He said, I want all of my citizens to own firearms if they're legally able, because it's going to take his deputies too long to get to the house. I mean, realistically, they're stretched thin. We know that. Where the area we live in, there's 35, 40,000 people.
Yeah.
At any given time, there might only be 2 deputies, if not just one, patrolling this whole area.
Yeah.
And they might be on another call. So that could be 8, 10, 12 minutes or longer.
Right.
Even an emergency. Right. Even if they got here in 8 minutes, it's over by that time. You better be ready. It
can be over in as little as 2 to 3 minutes.
Absolutely.
And it depends on how easy it is to get into your house. That's not a lot of, not everybody has big barriers and early warning signs and cameras that are, letting them know that someone's at their home. Sometimes it's the breaking down of a door that wakes you up in the middle of the night. And, it's tragic. I remember one of the cases that I sat in on in the criminal court was a little old lady. I think she was in her 70s. It was home alone. Her husband had died. And 3 teens, early 20s, 2 males and a female, broke into her house, bludgeoned her upside the head, left her for dead, stole, whatever they stole from her home. And then ultimately she lay there on the ground until she died and was found, I think, by her daughter days later. And we had to sit through and listen to this court hearing go on. And the suspects had no remorse. They had no, at least they expressed no remorse. And had we had a culture where that woman was comfortable using a firearm, it used to be that folks were trained, taught in school how to use firearms, which that creates a culture of comfort around those tools. And we don't have that anymore. So most people don't have that type of experience. If we had that culture and that little old lady had a way to defend herself, maybe she'd still be alive today, and maybe 1 or 2 of those 3 wouldn't. Maybe we'd be a little safer. Unfortunately, it's more likely that 2 out of the 3 of those hoodlums are still on the street, and 1 less good citizen is alive and well because of our, because of the culture that these Democrats have built.
Well, I think that highlights what I look at in society, what's damaging society. And I spend a lot of time on high school campuses, and I watch these kids, and I see the complete lack of parental involvement. And that's how you end up with kids like that are going to, 18, 19, 20. They're still kids. I get it. You're an adult, but you're still, they definitely seem younger than we were when I was 19. When I was 19, I was old. I grew up in a hurry because of you. No, but
I was born around.
Yeah, exactly. But in that, it seems like there's no accountability anywhere. And also when it comes to like our state, one of the things that really bothers me is they are making it so hard for single parents, single mothers, whoever, the elderly, to afford to own firearms.
Yeah.
And afford to be able to buy the ammunition, because if you're going to own a firearm, especially if you're going to carry a firearm, but if you're going to own one in general, you have to practice.
Yeah.
You've got to be comfortable pulling that trigger. You've got to be, well trained in that.
Sure.
I think that's the other part of the responsibility that comes with this. And I think if we're making it harder and harder for the folks to do that, they're just not going to do. They won't. They don't have the money. They can't go buy the ammunition. They can't do that. They can't get a gun.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. The Democrats have found many ways to stifle out Americans' abilities to purchase and use and train on firearms, whether it's the price of ammunition, the new sales tax that California implemented, trying to ban certain guns, certain handguns like this Glock ban. And it's exactly what you're talking about. It's that the culture and lack of accountability is the broader problem. It spans far beyond just owning firearms, but it seems to be, it comes from a little bit of our way of thinking as Americans, where we should be free to do as we please, and we should be free. But that ultimately was not the spirit of America. It wasn't just free to do as we please. It was free to seek opportunity and to pursue that opportunity and have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It wasn't the pursuit of whatever we wanted.
Right.
And so, unfortunately, that's what's being hammered out and hashed out in the courts. But we built a culture, at least from what I've seen, like luckily there's some American spirit still left out there, but we definitely have built a culture of people who are in it for themselves. We hear that a lot in this anti-capitalist rhetoric, people just framing capitalism as if it's an in it for them, in it for themselves culture, which it's not. Capitalism is amazing and provides opportunities for everyone involved, which is why we started out that way. But yeah, it definitely is the overarching culture that we don't have accountability. That all starts with the education system. And so I was extremely happy when I heard that there was going to be an overhaul of the Department of Education, right. But it hasn't really turned into anything meaningful for our state, at least. Our kids go to private school and we pay that extra money, which is substantial,
absolutely,
to keep our kids out of the public system because of things like what just came out of the Supreme Court this week, which was that they ruled that it is perfectly legal for these states to ban transgender athletes from males who are claiming to be female competing in female sports and vice versa.
Well, they're struggling with a mental illness. Let's be real. That's what, in my opinion, that's a mental illness.
Yeah.
And what happens in our state, they go, nah, and I get it. It's a states' rights issue. That's basically what the Supreme Court pushed it back to.
Sure.
Here, it's a states' rights issue. You guys can handle it.
Mm.
Well, that doesn't do anything for California. That all that did is reaffirm that. And I understand. I'd rather have states' rights in a lot of ways.
Sure.
But, there's certain ways that, to me, that is taking civil rights away from the girls. I don't want my granddaughters to go and play sports against some boy.
Right.
And it's a boy. Let's be real. I don't care if you're, because they have a parent who has some mental illness, in my mind, if they're giving their kids these drug hormones and things, transition drugs for their, hell, when they're 10, 11, even younger.
At minimum, they have an agenda.
Oh, right? They have an agenda. And realistically, are you really thinking of the best interest of the child when you do that? You're absolutely not.
Imagine this. You defend yourself or a loved one, and instead of being seen as the good guy, you're arrested, charged, and forced to fight for your freedom. You did nothing wrong, but now you're looking at thousands in legal fees. We've seen it happen. Good people losing everything just to prove they acted lawfully. That's why you need firearms legal protection. For as little as 33 cents a day, FLP gives you unlimited legal defense for criminal and civil cases. No caps, no hidden fees, no payback, just real protection with experienced self-defense attorneys who have your back. Plus, you'll get 24/7 attorney access, red flag protection, and more. Go to firearmslegal.com, pick your plan, and use promo code ECA for exclusive pricing, no setup fee, and a lifetime rate lock. Because when the worst day of your life happens, you shouldn't face it alone.
Yeah, I saw recently that there was this was probably a year ago, 6 months ago, something like that. There was a mother in Hollywood who had two transgender children and a gay child.
Yeah,
and
I think that's who it is. I think it's Charlize Theron.
And that's indicative of the fact that there's something wrong in the parenting, because statistically the likelihood that you would even have one transgender child is extremely low.
Right.
And then for you to have two to turn out that way, and then one also to turn out gay, so you end up you're 100 for your 3 for 3.
Yeah.
Children who are alternative lifestyle, we'll call it. It just shows that it's her way of thinking.
Yeah.
And this is why these topics are so important, because it's not just about gun rights. It's not just about education. It's about mental illness is contagious. And that is what has been avoided, and at least in what I've seen. And just so everybody knows, I'm qualified to speak on this topic. I've written 2 books, published 2 books, have been reviewed by over 10 PhDs across the world, neuroscientists, psychologists. My work has been used in clinical psychology on human behavior and the human mind. And so the thing that has not been said that I feel like should be said is that mental illness is contagious. And that's what we're seeing is, sometimes it becomes a fad, and then people want to be socially accepted. And so they come into that fad not knowing the consequences, which we're seeing that in a lot of these detransitioners.
Oh, a lot.
We're coming out. We see, I don't want to get too much into some of the other alternative lifestyles, but there are real consequences to a lot of what these people are doing and experiencing, and then trying to sell to other folks so that they can feel good about themselves, rather than just owning up to their own insecurities and trying to assimilate back into normal society. Because normal society will never fully accept those ways of life, because they don't align with the purpose of civilization in the first place. So deeper topic, but.
Well, it is, but I think it all ties back into the same type of, same aspect of it. It's when you really look at it and you think about who those politicians that are really anti-gun and who they're really catering to. Yeah. And they were looking, like you put it great earlier, the weak-minded in my mind, when you look at that. And I always think of, we talk about the kids that they're transitioning and the, whatever you want to call it when they're young. But a lot of times when you see the gender fluid or any of that stuff that's going on, it's almost always a kid who's had a rough time.
A cry for help.
Yeah, it is. It's a cry for help. It's a kid who, most of the time, and it's, okay, kids are mean. We get it.
Sure.
I was a kid. Hell, to me, a middle school girl is about the meanest thing in the world. I've watched. I've raised 2 of them. Yeah. I've seen a lot of them.
They were mean to us. Sometimes we were mean to others.
Exactly. Sure. It happens. So if you have a kid who's getting picked on, and then all of a sudden they find a way, there's an alley for them. Now they're going to be accepted, and they're going to be heralded as a hero. They're going to be just put up on a pedestal. Yeah. They jump on that. Yeah. It's got to be better than what they were going through.
Sure.
So I put a lot of that on the parents. They've got to pay attention to what's going on with their kids.
Right.
Because all you're doing is you're feeding into that. And now you're we've watched it. And I spent a lot of time on high school campuses and other campuses and different things we're volunteering for. And I see these kids, and you can just look at them, they could, in 2 years, they might be back to normal.
Right.
In what we perceive as normal. I get it. In their mind, they go, we are normal. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're trying to fit in a certain area that, and unfortunately, those are the ones that these same politicians that are going after our other rights are taking these folks and telling them how great they are, and going to use them to give them power to take away the guns, take away whatever rights they want.
Well, the numbers don't lie. If you're part of less than 1% of the population and your behavior is that far of an outlier, then you can't call yourself normal. I mean, you can call yourself whatever you want. Right. That doesn't make it true. which is the same problem we're seeing with that particular sector of the population. So, and you're right, it does start with the parents. And the thing that's not so clear, because it takes so long for it to happen, is that when we're not holding parents accountable, and when we allow these cultures to take root and take hold and grow, is the parents produce children who are even more extreme, who then produce children who are even more extreme. And, you know, rather than, not that everyone needs to be on a straight and narrow line, but there should be a pretty, pretty close left and right boundary as to what is considered acceptable behavior in society. You know, we're all here trying to build families and protect our families, live our lives safe, make a living, just to get through the 80 or 90 years that we're going to be on this planet. And, maybe longer now. We'll see. There's, all sorts of new medicines and research, but, we're all trying to make it through, and society is, living in communities has been the best way we found to do that. But as these outliers keep pushing further and further away from the norm, all they're doing is creating conflict. And by us allowing that, like, hey, if you want to live that life, that's fine. You can do with your life whatever you want, but you can't do it here. You cannot sell that to my children.
Right.
And that's really why I think it's become a bigger topic of conversation, because I really don't care what you do inside of your house, but when your culture bleeds outside your front door and then into my lawn and into my house, where my children start having questions that they can't answer because their minds aren't developed enough. And then now you're saying that the schools don't have to tell me when my children are having or suffering from these mental health issues. And that also, if I have anything to say about it, that the state can come in and take my kid away because I want them to lead a normal, semi-normal life, or to the best of their ability, and be productive members of society. You've crossed the line. And so, and that's what, I enjoy watching these Democrats get spanked in court. And they lose every time they get to the Supreme Court, because ultimately there's a constitution, there are rules, there's historical precedent that says these things don't work, and they're not going to be allowed in our communities. And so, if the best we can get is states' rights decision,
right,
then at least it allows people a reprieve, an option to say, well, this doesn't fit with my culture, and so I'm going to move to this other state and still be protected under this constitution.
You made a comment though, and I agree to an extent. Let people run their own lives, do what they're going to do, but at the same time, we have to be really careful with that, and that's where I'm starting to struggle more and more. And maybe it's just because I'm getting older and don't have quite the patience that I probably used to, or I'm just looking at things a little bit differently. And what's funny is people who know me would say I'm a little more liberal or progressive than I used to be.
Sure.
In some ways. In other ways, I'm definitely far more right. But if we continue to just say, okay, you'll go do what you want to do over there and don't bother us.
Yeah.
All we're doing is letting them continue to grow and continue to contaminate. Because that's what's happening is if you get an ingrown toenail and you ignore it long enough, now all of a sudden you're going to lose a foot.
Right.
Well, I think that's what's happening now.
Yeah.
Is we're starting to we're going to lose a foot.
Right.
And I look at this, and I used to always say, I could be friends with anybody, and I can be.
Sure.
And I don't care about your political leanings or this or this or that. I'm starting to adjust that a little bit in a way. And I'm not going to say I'm going to be mean to anybody or go out of the way, but at the same time, I'm having a hard time being friends with some folks who don't have the same moral structure that I have.
Right.
Whether it be abortion is obviously an issue for me. Sure. It always has been. Sure. I struggle with that one. I cannot get past that aspect of it. Gun rights is one. You're willing to take my right away. And I often say, and people have heard me say it all the time, the anti-gun folks, I always say, hey, you have every right in the world to not own a firearm. You don't have to own a firearm. Never take away my right to protect you. And that's it. That's really what it comes down to. I got to protect my family, myself, my property, and my friends around me, and other people. I don't care if it's some neighbor's kid. I'm going to protect him.
Yeah.
I've seen this when they do these reels, and you don't know what's real, what's not real anymore. All this AI crap, which you love. I know. I despise it, but
it does make me money, so it does feed my family.
it does. Absolutely. I get it. And I have to learn to use it. Sorry, the allergies are bothering me. But when I look at this and I see they're talking to these mothers and they're saying, would you kill for your child? And they're like, oh, no, no. I'm like, what do you mean you would not kill for your child? And there's multiples. And you can almost pick out where they live a lot of times.
Yeah.
And, you're certainly not in the South. I can tell you.
Yeah.
Because I don't understand the process. And I knew a young lady here who felt the same way. She would have a hard time.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that was before she had children. Now that she's had children, she'd kill that person in a heartbeat and not think twice.
This is, so to your first point, you're 100% correct that mental illness can become a cancer to society.
Yeah,
it can. And just even bad culture. It doesn't just have to be mental illness.
No.
It can just be poor culture, bad culture. By poor culture, I mean poor values, right? So bad values. Values drive behaviors and behaviors drive outcomes. And the closer friends that we become with folks, the closer to those conversations about values, that we have. Or that we become. So this is why communities form around shared values, but in more recent times, we have all this conflict because we have an entire sect of society that's saying that, we don't need to have shared values. You just need to let me be me. And I don't need to abide by your rules, and just don't bother me. But also at the same time, I need you, and I'm going to use the government to force you to abide by my rules.
Right.
And that's where the agreement ends. And those folks should be very careful because they don't, what may not be so obvious to them is that when the social contract breaks down, it gets violent. And if I'm going to be part of any team that who want to be a part of a specific team when the social contract does break down, it's going to be on the people who believed in and trained on how to use the firearms. So it's very interesting to watch these people. It all comes back to I think what you were talking about in your second point, which is awareness. The number one cause for these people, these weak-minded folks a woman who would say that she wouldn't kill for her child, the reason that she was the way that she was is because she lacked awareness of the reality, the experience of what it meant to have a kid, what it meant to be in that situation. And in law enforcement, we would often talk about, you don't actually know what you're going to do until you're in the situation. So until a gun is pointed at your head, you really don't know who you are because your values haven't been tested. At least in all of my research, my understanding is that the folks, the further you go left, the more flight you have.
Oh, yes, in a fight or flight.
Fight or flight. The weaker the mind you have. And it's not that that's not reprogrammable. It's that they've never been punched in the face. They've never had to experience what it means to be in a dangerous situation. Or maybe whenever they were small, when they were children, they were abused and beaten when they couldn't defend themselves. And so they're traumatized, and that they all kind of shift this direction. Now, sometimes that goes the other way too,
sure, but
they all kind of shift this direction. That's why these school shooters and these mass shooters and these people who are trying to use firearms and do harm on a mass scale, they're usually on the left because they lived their whole life passive aggressive, pent up. And then when they finally got power, they decided to use it for their own selfish reasons. And so that's, not that every Democrat is a mass shooter, or not that everyone who was traumatized, handles things that way. But it just seems to be that the math lines up, that the weaker the mind you have, the higher probability is that you are passive aggressive and that you take out your rage on other people, rather than learning and going through the experience of learning how to defend yourself, understanding why you should know how to defend yourself, the tools and abilities that it takes to do that, and then becoming a person who has some social duty to be a part of the community, to be a protector, and not just to be a consumer.
And the reprogramming idea and the retraining or the helping, a lot of these folks they're highly educated in a different area. They're ignorant.
In college, sure.
Yeah, they're ignorant about these things, but they're very highly educated, and they've grown up in a society that is just very sheltered in a lot of ways. I have a very good friend, that was very anti-gun. Yeah, and we would have multiple discussions about it over the years, and reasonable discussions.
Sure.
And we worked together. It was interesting to me, and because it all comes back to what about me at the time, because we went over this for probably years, and then one night we were together and we were going to go meet some customers for dinner in downtown Fresno, in a rough part of town. And when that happened, when we started to get out of the truck, looked over and asked me, "Hey, you have your gun, right?" And it was interesting. And then at the time I said, "Yes, absolutely." And I used the same thing. I said, I do have my gun, and it goes back to never infringe on my right to protect you.
Yeah.
I said, I will always protect you. Don't you worry. But okay. So what happened with her down the road was after that happened, I just let it go. And I, told her what I told her. Well, then fast forward about 2 or 3 years, maybe a little more because everything runs together after COVID.
Sure.
But I get a picture of her after she's left the company, and she's at a gun range with her new company, and they're doing a team building event.
Oh, how funny.
And she's got a gun strapped to her side, and she enjoyed the hell out of it. So go to that reprogramming comment you made earlier, retraining.
Yeah.
If you have liberal friends, you have anti-gun friends, if you get them out to the range with you and have them shoot and get them comfortable and they understand that it is, like you used the word tool earlier. Yeah. Firearm is just a tool. That's all it is.
Right.
You take the ammo out of it, it's just a piece of metal.
Right.
Piece of lead. It doesn't matter. So plastic, whatever it is.
Right.
But you get these folks out, you let them shoot a little bit, it's going to be amazing the change in them and what they see. Yeah, there's some fruitcakes get out there and they, like you said, do the school shootings and so forth and off the left. Like I said, make it a good-minded liberal. I know there's not many, but
the thing is that if we started when we should, which is school, we should be teaching this in school. We should be teaching self-defense in school. We should be teaching firearms in school as early as 12 to 13 years old. These kids should start self-defense classes. If we started teaching those things, and also some emotional intelligence classes like conflict resolution, the ways to confronting conflict rather than avoiding conflict. If we were teaching these things, then we would have far less mass shooters, because these kids, if any, because if that was like the national curriculum, was that all of these children had to go experience what it meant to get hit in the face, what it meant to defend themselves from someone trying to bully them or hit them in the face. I'm not a believer that violence is not an option. So I believe that if someone is being violent towards you, then you should know how to be equally or more violent back.
Absolutely.
In law enforcement, and in the military, we had a way of thinking that you respond with overwhelming force.
Right.
The person who is trying to attack you, who's wrongfully trying to attack you, should be so afraid that if they ever did that again, of the consequences, that they should cower down immediately and you should gain compliance. Because, for the law enforcement side, you're not there to fight the person. You're there to enforce the law. They just chose to resist. Right. And so you're having to respond to their behavior. which is so scary and so unpredictable. But if we were teaching all of these things to children, which, people might say, oh, well, they're 12 and 13, they're too little for these things. No, they're not too little for these things. 12 and 13-year-olds are recruited into gangs. And as part of my education in law enforcement, I learned that guess who the most dangerous gang members are?
Oh, yeah.
They're the 13 to 15-year-olds.
Yeah, because they know they're not going to get in that much trouble too, but also they don't have the mental
they're not
capacity.
Developed. Yeah, so they're just trying to survive, and these older men are exploiting them and exploiting their youth, and so they're jumping other kids in, and they're doing drive-by shootings, and these things are happening. And again, it's just back to the families in Hollywood, or who live in, behind the gated walls, just have their head in the sand. They have no experience with that lifestyle. So they don't understand why anyone would want to teach these kids those things, because in their minds, that doesn't happen because it's never happened to them.
Well, and a lot of them live in their protected worlds. Yeah, they have people with guns protecting them.
They're bodyguards, of course.
Yeah, exactly. It's surprising when you really look at that. And I know there's some out there that frustrate the hell out of me, De Niro and those guys. You're such a hypocrite. I look at some of these movie stars that are very anti-gun, but they have made a fortune off of guns in their movies.
Off the gun culture.
Yeah, Matt Damon.
Yeah.
He's very anti-gun.
Right.
Good God.
The irony.
Yeah, irony of that. How much did he make over all the Bourne stuff?
Right.
You look at that,
well, they view themselves as having special circumstance.
Yeah, Ben Affleck, extreme liberal, will not even be in a movie with somebody who's a conservative.
Oh, jeez.
But yet, look at his movies. I mean, The Accountant, come on. That's about as violent as you get.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of guns.
I don't know. John Berthal seems like he might be. I haven't listened to him too much, but I've heard him be.
Oh, the brother in that one.
Yeah.
Oh no. I think he's.
He might be all right.
He might be, but I'd be surprised because Affleck has been very clear about that. So
yeah. Well, we know that Hollywood is all make believe.
It's make believe,
and the people who are playing these roles and making money off of entertainment, they're making that, I'm glad that they found a career where they could provide for their families and themselves that way. But at the end of the day, they should have no place in influencing anyone about what, they should believe or what they should vote for.
Right.
Because those folks don't live in the real world with the other 98% of the population, who don't have millions of dollars in the bank, and who can't afford private security or to fly all over the world on a whim in their private jets.
Yeah.
And, that's an age old and a well-trodden path. And to me, it's like kicking a dead horse. But for the rest of us on the ground, we do have to deal with, the homeless on drugs who are, who can be extremely dangerous. We do have to deal with the home break-ins, and the gang members. And for that reason, in my opinion, the government has no right or authority to ever stop a person from protecting their own life. And so my way of thinking about it is that if it's something that can't be delegated. You can't delegate your right to defend your own life to someone else. You can't, because in the final moment, it's still just you. Yeah. And so my way of thinking about it, and I don't understand why this argument hasn't been made in court yet, but if the government cannot provide a one-to-one protection for me, my family, my children, if they cannot have someone with my child 100% of the time, then they have no right to tell me that I can't do what is necessary, carry a gun, carry a knife, and protect my child from the most common threats on the street. So if you cannot guarantee me that you will have someone standing next to me whenever a person draws a gun on me, then you have no right to restrict my ability to carry a gun and respond to that threat. That's my stance.
Well, I think you're absolutely right on that one. You got to do whatever you have to do, and you should have the right to do that. It's, it's funny. I think back to that one of that same friends, because, my regular day job, we travel a lot, and we're out in areas where we shouldn't be sometimes, and they're by themselves, and these women are driving out there by themselves, and we're sitting at lunch one day, and I was talking to her about that, and I said, here's the thing you got to look at. No matter what you're doing, you got to be aware, and they're not aware. No clue what's going on around them. I said, be aware. I said, also, always have a plan.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're sitting there at lunch.
Right.
If you don't have a firearm, fine. You don't have a knife, fine. You do have a knife because you've got one sitting at the table.
Right.
You do have salt, pepper shakers.
Yeah.
You do have a cup.
Anything can be a weapon.
Anything is a weapon. And she was like, I never really thought about that. I said, absolutely.
Yeah.
I said, pay attention when you're with me and we're out. I always carry a cup in my left hand. I don't carry it in my right hand.
Yeah.
I'll usually have it open because then it's a weapon. It doesn't matter. You're going to throw that in their face, and now you've got an opening.
Right.
Just be aware, be alert, and pay attention. It's like I said, we're making some adjustments to this. On our website, you're going to see some things on the with the trainings and so forth on the podcasts. All of our listeners, you guys need to know there's going to be a few adjustments here and there. We're bringing some folks on that won't necessarily be just firearms instructors. Yeah. We've done that already. That's why we want to talk about this. And they kind of our opinions on things, where we're at. Yeah. So you guys know where we're at on it. And we'd love to hear from you guys. So keep throwing the comments out there. Keep sending us emails. And we respond every time we can. Yeah. I try to get back to every single one of you. So, everycitizenarmed@gmail.com. And then also we have the other one. But
mail at everycitizenarmed.com.
Yeah.
It's funny. I wanted to tell this story earlier, and I slipped my mind that you're talking about awareness in your friend. I also have a close friend who is, pretty liberal, and he had never shot a gun in his entire life, and he's in his mid-40s. And he told me, my wife would never let me have a gun in the house, which is ironic, in and of itself. But now they're getting divorced. And so now they're separated, and she lives elsewhere. So he came to me. He's like, hey man, I want to shoot a gun. Maybe you can take me out. And so we did. We went down to the range. It was an indoor range, very safe environment. But kind of loud, for someone who'd never really shot a gun. So I could understand he was a little shocked, but I loaded the Glock for him. I showed him, just some basic safety. And I said, okay, now I just want you to point the gun that direction, and I want you to shoot. Like, I don't care if you hit the target. The first round is just get the round out of the gun, because you've never done this.
You want him to feel it.
43 years of life, you've never done this. And just sitting there watching him trying and shaking and just could not. And he put the gun down. And he's like, I'm not sure I can do it. I'm like, well, what are you afraid of? Like, what is the thing that's holding you back? And he's like, well, what if it blows up, or what if it shoots back at me? And it's like that. That's the lack of awareness. Right. That's the lack of experience. There's no concept, no training, no education on firearms, how safe they're built, what they do. And I said, look, man, the bullet's only going one direction. It's wherever you point the barrel. So point the barrel that way. If you have to close your eyes, just pull the damn trigger. And he did. And he finally pulled the trigger. And he said, oh, that wasn't so bad.
Exactly.
And then we spent the rest of the time shooting all the 3 different handguns that we had there, at that time. And that was, 3-4 years ago. And I would say just maybe 3-4 months ago, he calls me up and he's like, hey, I'm thinking about getting a home defense weapon with all of this going on, the Iranian stuff. And I just don't know what's going to happen. And I was like, well, that's funny. All right. He's like, I was thinking about getting a shotgun, which, is a great home defense weapon. But I said, well, come on over and I'll show you maybe why you need to have a shotgun and a handgun.
Yes.
And, we practiced clearing rooms, and, as we're clearing this very, it's not a super tight hallway, but it's tight enough that as you're trying to clear with a shotgun, you have to you have to kind of bring it up and around. And I said, okay, now I'm going to show you how to clear it. And then I want you to try it. So I went and I cleared the hallway with the shotgun in the rooms. And as I had him try it, he's like, wow, that's really awkward. I said, okay, now here's a Glock 22 and I want you to do the same thing. And of course, it's a lot easier to clear as you can bring the gun into your chest and you can pie corners that you can't, it's very difficult to do that unless you're a trained operator with a rifle or a handgun, which you shouldn't clear your house with a rifle, but with a shotgun.
Gosh, no.
I've made that mistake and realized very quickly how dumb that was.
We grabbed what was close.
I grabbed what I thought legitimately had reason to believe there was someone armed in my house. Just the sequence of events and how my alarm system was working. I thought, well, if I'm going to take a gun, I have a level 3 and a level 4 2 vests, and so I threw on my level 4 vest and I grabbed my AR and realized that was really stupid and that was probably not going to go well for me.
Right, exactly. Well, and I wish people would really think about that. And one of our most popular reels that we released was actually talking to the guys at Shooter Ready about exactly that concept of what home defense weapon you should have.
Yeah.
And because I feel a shotgun is a great item. It's not the best home defense weapon by any stretch in my mind.
Yeah.
I know some people love it and it's great.
Sure. Yeah.
But like you've got daughters down the hall.
Yep.
So you come out with a shotgun, they happen to pop their head out at the wrong time.
Yep.
And you fired at that same time. We're in trouble.
Right.
So no, I would much rather somebody clear with a handgun and use that for home defense because
if you have time. So if you have time to position yourself,
absolutely.
Then it's great. If the person's at the front door and they're not in and you have time to get your shotgun and go position yourself in front of the door, excellent. But if the person's already through the door or if you're uncertain of where that person might be, then you definitely are going to have a difficult time, especially if you don't know how to pie corners with a long rifle.
And granted, there's nothing scarier than ratcheting a shotgun. When you rack that shotgun, you're going to hear that from a ways away.
Yeah,
in the middle of the night.
It's very clear. Yeah,
that might make somebody run away.
Yeah.
Well, now they're going to have a chance to come back.
Right.
So,
I
would rather we finish the situation right there.
Make the world a safer place.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because now they're going to go break into somebody else's house.
Right.
No, let's put a stop to that.
Yeah. Folks might say, oh, I can't believe you'd want them to die. Like, I have no sympathy. If you're breaking into someone's house, you've already broken the social contract.
Yeah.
And I can't exile you. And so I have no problem with that.
No, you're coming in. They're just there to steal your stuff. Okay. What happens if my wife interrupts them? Yeah. What happens if, they run into your daughters in the hallway?
Yeah. Oh man, you get me on this topic. That in my book I write about dark associations. We all associate good and bad feelings to things, and the problem with someone who's willing to break in and has broken into a house is that once they've done that once successfully, then they've associated that good feeling to that behavior, and they'll do it again.
Oh, sure.
They'll do it again, whether it's because they like the adrenaline rush or because they saw some benefit from it. They got away with the money 2 or 3 times, and it just leads towards bad outcomes. So that person has become a broken individual, and it's not even likely that reprogramming will fix them.
Well, and what happens? Okay, just that exact same thing. Now they felt that adrenaline rush. They found that it's exciting. It's this, it's that. Well, now they do it 3 or 4 or 5, 6 times, get away with it. Mm-hmm. Now they need a little more rush. So what's the next step?
Right.
Think about the drugs. You can take a small hit, you feel good. Now you got to go bigger. Got to go bigger. No, let's just put a stop to it.
Well, these people are not doing this just for survival.
No.
That's the false sympathy and false empathy that comes out of the Democrats' side, which is why California ended up in the situation it did, where we couldn't even put people in jail because they changed the law so drastically that the sentencing was reduced for these, lesser misdemeanor crimes, and moved a lot of felony crimes down to misdemeanors, which thankfully I believe that a lot of that's been
partially reversed. Yes.
Yeah, but no, you're 100% right. the motives of these folks it's not to survive. They're not breaking into your home. There's a very big difference in the psychology of a person who's trying to steal food from a grocery store and breaking into a home and robbing folks in the middle of the night. These two people are not the same people. And so you're 100% correct that this person is seeking something different than this person, and the person breaking into your home, in my personal opinion, is too far gone.
I agree.
So rehabilitation is probably not. It may not be that it's beyond them, but it's definitely going to be a different kind of rehabilitation for sure.
I still beat the hell out of the ones trying to steal at the grocery store. Just due to my past. You were there. We used to own a grocery store, and we'd beat the hell out of them when we had to.
Well, they fought back.
It didn't go well. Almost never. But that's fine. So with that, we want people to know we are making some adjustments. Like I said, we're going to start doing some training ourselves, and we welcome all of y'all to go on the website. If you're looking at getting into this, getting your CCW, if you're looking to buy a firearm, go onto the website, contact us. We'll help you where we can. We'll definitely get you to the right instructor. We want to be able to get as many people out there to protect their friends and their family and their property as much as we can. But also to do it responsibly. So with that, if you're going to do it, you're going to carry, I want you to get out there and practice. I don't care if you're dry firing, make sure you're very comfortable with that firearm. And before you go buy a firearm, go down and look at a few. Fire a few of them. Don't buy the wrong one. That's one of the things. I will give Turner's a lot of credit for this. I'd rather support all of our local businesses. They're not local, they're a corporate store, and I get it, but they've got a firing range. If you're going to go buy a firearm, go down to your local range. A lot of times they have firearms you can rent. We did that with my wife when she needed a new gun. So we went down and she tried a few different ones. Go find one you're comfortable shooting. Put a few magazines down there. Make sure you're comfortable before you buy it. Otherwise, you end up with an LC380 in your safe that you never want to use. So that's what we have. So, so find something you're comfortable with before you go waste your money. But take the time and learn about it. Go shoot a few things. Talk to your friends. Send us an email. Like I said, we'll do our best to respond to everybody out there. everycitizenarmed@gmail.com, and we'll get you with the right instructor. We've got some of the best ones on our website. We know that. And now, depending on which county you're in, you can see that on there. We'll have instructors for those counties. And if you're an instructor, reach out to us. We'll work on getting you on, and we'll show you a way we can make it pretty profitable for you. So, all right. With that, I think we're pretty good.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me on and letting me come do this episode with you.
Get to espouse your wisdom. The best part of what you said today, probably 5 times, the most intelligent comment you made each time is, Dad, you're 100% right. What a great note to end on. I didn't hear that enough with him growing up. So we look forward to it, guys. We'll let you know on the next episode coming up. And if you have folks you think would be a good guest, let us know. You guys take care. We'll see you next time.